All right, so this is the third episode of the Crow's story. Is that correct?
I
Yep.
believe so. Hopefully well the final the final chapter so far.
Question
Yeah,
mark? Yeah.
Question mark.
we'll take it from there.
Myths and stories. What episode are we on?
14?
Man, we are kicking ass with this thing. I absolutely love it.
Well, 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah, yeah. We're
Uh-huh.
third, fifth. Well, I don't know. Math is hard. We're some part of the way there. Yeah. So we're doing part 3 tonight. Turns out the Crow story is like that. When it's funny too, because like when I first thought of like the idea of like even doing any type of podcast, and my first idea was like, well, let's do the Reef, and then it was like, well, you can't really do the Reef without doing the Distributary. And it's like, well, you can't really do the Distributary without doing Mara, and now you can't do Mara without doing Uldren, and now you can't do Uldren and Mara without doing Crow. So it's like everything we've done so far. I think we've had maybe 1, maybe 2 weeks where it hasn't been centered around quite possibly 2 of the most important people in the entire Destiny universe, that being Mara Sov and her brother Uldren Sov. Like I so
We
much of the Destiny universe literally revolves around the 2 of them.
we were very timely with our original topics and deciding to
Yeah,
go with the
and for them to be
tributary and the
yeah.
awoken history, and then they're like, oh, by the way, here's a whole season of it. And I'm like, oh well,
What?
we
Well, here
predicted
we
the
go.
future.
Now we got our good refresher. Now we can take this further.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Although, well, no, there's a rant coming later.
oh no.
But
Let's
we'll
okay.
save that.
Can we start it with the rant and then
No, I think it's going to be best to make our way through Crow and Season of the Lost, and then we'll have the rant because it's
good
tangential to Crow.
good luck.
Yeah, yeah.
So last time we ended at basically what the did we get through, because season of the Splicer, uh
There's like 2, maybe 3 things I think we talked about. We
if
got through Season of the Splicer.
and it was literally like that one instance of the families, or of the humans coming into the Elixni district and like getting ready to smash some ether tanks, and they're writing graffiti on the wall, and then Crow's just like, you need to walk away now.
Mm-hmm.
And then like it even Glint's like, you weren't really gonna shoot them, were you? And he just doesn't answer. And Glint's like, Crow, you,
You weren't gonna, right?
right? Like that's
uh,
not a thing, right?
yeah. So there was that, and then just the fact that he was smuggling stuff from Spider
From Spider.
to the Elixni quarter
With the whole little shit. Like
Yep.
I had to go find that lore entry to see if that's literally what it says. It's that
That's
little
literally
shit.
what it says.
It's like, okay. But yeah, so that's him through Splicer. And then literally what, 2 days before the season started for Season of the Lost, Bungie drops his bombshell on us that Mara's coming back, and
Yeah.
Mara and Crow are center stage with another person who's been kind of central to the entire Destiny universe, but never really front and center.
Yeah, as I say, that was I don't know if that was planned. There's some speculation that it was a leak that kind of forced their hand. But yeah, lo and behold, Mara, Sov, and Crow and Osustris were all kind of the big 3, taking taking center stage for Season of the Lost.
Yeah.
And even the name we've talked about a little bit before. Season of the Lost is has so many potential ties to things.
Absolutely.
We're
still hoping for that sheer not
Shiraido. Yeah.
Yes, I did it right this time. I didn't say Shirochi. We're still hoping for that one to happen.
Yeah, because her ending, the lore card that describes her end, just describes her as lost. We have the somewhat more obvious connections with Crow being kind of lost, or his past has been lost. Mara has been lost up till this point. doing whatever the hell Mara does.
I was gonna ask, do we have any type of
We do not.
like
The
it's literally like the
last,
last we heard from her was talking to her through the Oracle machine like 2 years ago.
yeah, and if I recall correctly, essentially what she said there was that she was leaving to go fight on a different battlefield.
Yeah.
And then she just was gone and without any explanation for us.
I do remember one of the. Do you remember the season of Gambit? What was it? Season of the Joker, I think it was, where we actually had
Joker's Wild, or yeah,
that weekly mission. I think it was a weekly mission we actually picked up from Zur.
for I remember him having a
I
weekly
remember him having
thing.
that
I don't remember
mission,
what
and
it did though.
specifically I remember going to the Realm of the Nine, um, and in one of them was a giant Mara statue.
I vaguely remember this.
I
Yeah.
mean, all I can remember is this giant statue because I remember where you see the statue from, and then it sends you back to like the main area of the Nine. Like when you used to go do Reckoning, it puts you
Mhm.
underneath that little pyramid looking thing. Which the fact that they speak in pyramids and circles is
Uh-huh.
we'll cover that someday. But then you could look off in the distance and you could see the Mara statue. Like it was way off in the distance, but it was huge. I mean, it was like it was like the size of a tower next to your Guardian.
Yeah, I would have to go back.
But I don't. It was so
I
brief.
don't.
Like it was such a
Yeah, I don't remember
moment that was it.
Yeah, but so needless to say, one way or another, Mara has been off doing things unknowns to us. We know kind of what happened to her between her death, quote unquote, at the hands of Oryx, up till we see her in the Dreaming City during Forsaken. And then she sticks around for a couple weeks as we see her on the 3-week rotation, and then she just pieces out, and we don't hear from her again until the season of the Lost.
If you go to her, because obviously you can still do the Oracle engine in game, and like if you do that and you go there, she's not there. Like
No, it's just
ever
empty.
since that final week, it's just her empty throne world with just a chest in there for you essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the only significant thing about her throne world has been, and this is also in her chambers in Season of the Lost. There's a little pedestal with a little pyramid ship on it.
Yep.
And we still have no idea what the hell that's about.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just she's keeping tabs on them somehow,
or vice versa,
or yeah,
or working with, or
who
working
knows?
for, or working against, or
Who knows?
Mara's plans are Mara's plans alone.
And I guess okay. It just it dovetails into this too well. So the little mini rant I wanted to go on here is tangential to Crow, and in that it's mostly about Mara.
All right,
and
rant. Okay, we ready? Rant begin.
Rant begin. Yeah. I kind of hate how they've written her this season.
Oh no!
Like a lot.
Oh no! We're gonna get some Mara hate mail. We're gonna get some myth hate mail. Is what we're gonna get.
So, I feel like they took a character that was originally very grandiose and very,
regal.
Maybe didn't have all the answers, but was playing on a bigger chessboard than everyone else.
Sure.
And they have, in this season, I feel like through her dialogue interactions with Savathun, as well as her interactions with Crow and Petra and Ikora, she just kind of feels like she's throwing a tantrum.
A little bit, absolutely.
And
I can definitely see that. And like even from the beginning, like if we want to let's go through the opening of the season real quick. Remember that very first scene that you see where it's you're in I believe you're in the Dreaming City, and you're heading down. You've got Saint with you.
Because you've followed trail of Osiris, who fled at the end of Season of the Splicer.
Right.
And so you have Saint and you have Crow in tow as you go to kind of confront Osiris. Saint being essentially Osiris's husband, and Crow being, his protege. And so you show up at the Dreaming City. I believe it's Harbinger's Refuge is the
Is it
actual
that
area.
area underneath, right?
Yeah, it's the area underneath, like where the Oracle engine is.
Basically where the entrance to the Shattered Realm
Yeah,
is. The actual
yeah,
that what
where
what
the yep,
yeah, that main portal there.
yeah. So that's where you show up, and you find Osiris discussing something with Mara. We never hear what they were talking about before our little ragtag team breaks in. And it's unclear if Mara was aware. I think she must have been. The series of events was just odd
It was
because we come
absolutely.
in and they're clearly in the middle of a discussion about something, and then we confront Osiris and say, like,
Hey, we're
Ikora
pretty sure
and
you're not
Saint. Yeah,
Osiris.
well, not necessarily, because we go there originally with the purpose of bringing Osiris back to the city to, like,
Oh,
explain
right.
himself. Because
Almost like an answer for your crimes, but less of an
Ikora
answer
was
for your
very much
crimes.
of the Ikora and Saint were very much of the mindset of, like, you you're still a good person. We don't know for sure that you had a hand in the events that happened. Uh,
And also all the
we
stuff that they found in their house, right?
yeah, yeah.
Where they found the stuff
Um,
about the dead ghost extracting light.
yeah,
Um,
so they're very much were under the impression that Osiris was just kind of a tortured soul trying to figure out how to bring back Sagira, and had been implicated by Lakshmi in what had happened at the end of Season of This Place, or a Vex portal opened in the middle of the city.
yep.
But like that was very one-sided evidence. So Ikora wanted to be like, well, let's have Osiris come back and explain himself, and we'll promise him that we won't immediately throw him in chains, kind of thing. Like, we'll hear
Right,
him
like
out.
we'll
Uh,
hear him out to figure out what the hell is going on.
so that was the intention when we were originally doing the mission. And when we get there is when, Savathun decides, like, it's not worthwhile to keep up the charade anymore.
She
And
does the most.
she
Tell me
does
this.
her little eyebrow wiggle and the
And the
finger
finger, the little jazz fingers. Tell me that
yeah.
wasn't like you were all like everyone in the Destiny universe that was playing this game was like, oh my god, this is super serious. Let's go. And then all of a sudden that happens, and you're just like, what the hell? And you can't do anything but laugh, right? You're just
Yeah.
like, okay, what the hell?
I mean, I guess that's one way to confirm it's not really Osiris.
That's something.
But so Osiris, or Savathun in Osiris's skin, we don't see exactly what happens, based on they kind of do this thing where you see the shadow but you don't actually see the event. It kind of looks like she either, kind of burst out of his body, or his body morphed into whatever her body
Yep.
looks like. Whatever it was, it's implied that it was very grotesque and not something that Saint nor Crow wanted to see.
And mid morph, Mara's like, stasis.
Yeah. Mara's like, no more of that. I'm gonna freeze you in a crystal, but still let you talk because that seems smart.
I've been trying to figure this out too. Like, if Mara has this crate, like, first off, where the hell did Mara get this ability? Has she just been running around with stasis? Is that stasis?
I mean,
is that a crystal?
yeah.
Is it a cocoon? What the hell is it?
I think the closest approximation we have is stasis. And like we talked about with Ager's scepter,
Yeah.
Apparently, the Awoken have had control of stasis to some degree for ever or for quite
Yeah.
some time. And Mara being the most powerful paracausal Awoken to ever exist, I wouldn't be surprised that she's got some stasis abilities.
That's mind blowing to think that the power of the darkness, or what we as the player have associated with darkness, stasis being that power, that it's been in this obviously it's been in this universe for centuries, millennia,
Yeah.
and because I'm under the impression that Aegir Scepter didn't exist inside the distributary.
I think that's probably accurate because light and dark didn't exist inside the distributary as I understand it.
That's what I'm thinking. And so to me that would mean that Aegir Scepter specifically existed in the Dreaming City. The Dreaming City was made for Prince Uldren as Uldren, right? Like
Mhm.
after coming out of the distributary and making their home in the and then obviously him bringing the Wish Dragon and Riven helping them build the entire city up and make the Dreaming City into a real livable place for the Awoken. Sorry, I didn't mean to tangent off as we.
Uh, but
Uh, but yeah,
so we take all this into account. I'm instead of steering back on track, I'm going to steer back into my rant. Taking all
okay,
of this into account,
right,
we
because we
have
started off with a rant, then we went into story mode. Now we're back in
now
rant
we're
mode.
going back. We have a literal goddess that has existed for in excess of 12 billion years, built an entire universe on her thoughts alone, and accomplished everything she set out to accomplish in that universe, brought a people over to the soul system. One could argue didn't necessarily accomplish what she set out to for the soul system, but we also don't exactly
True.
know what her end goal is.
Like
You know,
her, I
walked.
mean, when you think about it, like Alice Lee's whole deal was like treat us like we're a non-entity. We're not of humanity. We're trying to become something else. When the
Right.
darkness came, and then Mara being all the way out there in front was just like, nah, I got my own plans. Boop.
Yeah. And just like literally planned her own death to walk across planes beneath or planes between dimensions to gamble that she would be able to take some kind of power from Oryx to then rebuild herself molecule by molecule into the body that we see her in today. Wished an entire city and throne world into existence with the help of Nahum Kara and her Techians, and now is being completely confused and confuddled by a guardian and this hive worm god that has lived for maybe a quarter of the time she has. And it blows my mind some of the decisions that they have had her make.
Yes. See,
It
there's
so I
there's a
don't
lot of like what I would say. I when I saw it was Mara, I expected a lot of that, like that mystery around Mara to genuinely be lifted, like this veil to be lifted, and it to
yes.
all just come flooding forward and be like, look, this is my grand plan, this is what I'm doing. But it still seems like she is playing her own game. Whatever game she was playing, whatever
Well, and I
secret
think that's
game
the
that she's
problem.
playing is still being played by her, but only by her.
Well, and I think that's the problem that I personally have with how the story is being told right now for or around her in particular is that it doesn't feel like she's playing her own game anymore. It feels like
Ah,
she doesn't have control of anything and is just putting on the mask of stoic ruler because she doesn't know what else to do. And that just seems so off character. You know, in the past she's been mysterious and she has been cryptic, absolutely, but I've never gotten the impression that she is one to
Not
shy
have
away
control.
from either admitting her own failures if she truly did have something not go not go as planned.
Sure.
And even if it didn't go as planned, she always seems to have had a billion and one, plan B, C, and D, and so
Oh,
on.
absolutely, absolutely.
So it just to
And
see her.
it's that lack of control. It's
Yeah,
to me, everything about it is that lack of control. Like this whole season seems like whatever is happening, she genuinely doesn't have control.
it's just they've turned her into an egotistical, stupid ruler, and that is not what she has been up till this point in the lore readings. And I don't feel like her character as we knew it before this has been done a whole lot of justice personally.
Sure.
uh for anyone that is familiar with Game of Thrones, and I don't think you are, Zor. I think we've talked about
I
that
am
before.
not, unfortunately.
uh
I am one
there's
of
a
the 3 people in the entire world that has not seen any Game of Thrones.
there is a character by the name of there's a character by the name of Tyrion Lannister, who is very
That
much a witty and not necessarily always in control, but always has a way or a plan to skew events to his favor.
Peter Dinklage.
Yes, Peter Dinklage's character.
I do love a good Peter Dinklage character.
And he does that phenomenally for like 5 seasons of the show. And then for whatever reason, he just keeps making stupid mistake after stupid mistake until his character kind of ends up like a joke. And I get the same vibes from
Okay.
what they're doing here with Mara. And
I'm
really,
curious if
really
it's
hope that's not the case.
like so that brings up a few interesting ideas. Now that we've completely given up on Crow,
We got to stretch this to 2 hours somehow.
yes. So that brings up a few thoughts. So thought number one is this whole idea of absolute power corrupts absolutely type thing, right? Like Mara has always had this control, has always had this everything, and now something for whatever reason is throwing it off, is taking that power away from her, and she doesn't know what to do, and so it becomes this like, well, you need to submit to me because that's the way it's always been. So why the hell aren't you submitting to me? So that's my first curious thought about this, right? My second one is obviously from a non-gameplay, non-lore standpoint, from a writer perspective of, I have this same issue when I get a birthday present from Margie or a Christmas present, where like I've got to get the greatest, grandest thing, and then like next year I've got to top that, and it gets to a point where it becomes hard to top things, right? Like there's only so high you can go, I feel like, before it just kind of plateaus and you're just like, well, shit, I don't know what the fuck to do now. Like that to me is part of it, right? Like that to me is like I can see a little bit of that happening in this. I'm
I can
hopeful
certainly
with you
understand
that is not the case. I'm
well,
very
and
hopeful that
even
is not the case, because obviously, like, there's so much like she could just come out and just tell us her plan from the beginning, just be like, hey, I planned this shit since I was like 5, like, and then just lay the whole thing out in front of us, and we would all just sit there and just be like, duh, and that would be the consensus from the entire community. But yeah, to see her kind of take this she issues these tasks for us each week, but even then each week is felt, it's been, hey, go rescue my Techian. And it's like, okay, you're a god, why why do I need to go rescue your Techian from your ley lines, from your creation of whatever? Like, why is that my task? I mean, if you're trying to, there's a side of me that wants to see it from like the, Mara doesn't believe in the spoken word, right? Like
Yeah.
Mara's very much like words are meaningless. They're shit, and people, even when people say what they say and mean what they say, there's still underlying tones and variables in there that can't be accounted for. So maybe her sending us to this realm, this shattered realm, and showing us these things, and show like the first week where it was very much like the EDZ, right? Like there was the church there was a castle, there's the cave system and the fountain, and then there, like maybe there's something to it of walking through these places and having her, and even as recently as these last few weeks where we finally got the final ability to see the caches, and for Mar to tell us a little bit about the stories that are going on here. I'm curious if that's just more of her trying to get us to see something, or like her way of talking to us without using spoken word. So that
Yeah. I mean,
I
I know we've in the lore it talks about the fact that she sees secrets, or she would prefer mystery over a truth that can be perceived differently by each individual.
yeah
Um, and that would be totally cool. I think really what did it for me um is the last interaction, the last lore card interaction that's currently in the game between her and Savathun, where
or she tells her
Savathun
to shut up.
does what she does, as we'll discuss because it is pertinent to Crow.
Yep.
And then Mara, like I said, essentially has a temper tantrum, and
There's no essentially about
is
it. She has a temperature tantrum, gets all pissy, and it's like, shut up.
yeah,
Like,
and then decides now is when you do whatever magic you need to do to prevent the hive queen of lies and trickery from talking.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I get that you need that. Like, again, seeing it from the writer's side, I get that you needed a reason to where there wasn't going to be a new story each week because this is a long ass season.
it is, yeah.
I understand that.
I feel like it could have been
Maybe
handled more
maybe handle it
delicately.
just a hair differently, or maybe stretch it out just a little bit more. Maybe give it another week or two. But
Yeah.
again, as we've seen with the other seasons, this is very typical of the season structure. Like around week 6 or 7, it just becomes kind of like a, hey, we've told the story we wanted to tell, get caught up on it over the next 5 or 6 weeks, and then we'll have a week or two of ending story that we're going to tie everything together with a nice little bow on it and lead it into the next season. So
Yeah, no, I find the structure fine. Like I'm perfectly okay, and I quite enjoy the, like, there's a new thing to discover each week.
sure.
If I were to say, like, I'm not a writer, I don't know the incredible amount of work that goes into what they put into this. But if I were to put forward a very rough alternative that I personally would have found a little more interesting, it would be something along the lines of Osiris is discovered as Savathun. We, maybe between Ikora and Zavala, or help bring Eris back somehow, be it
Because Eris has
stasis
been
or
involved with,
yeah.
I
I mean,
say involved with
Eris has been
Queen, but
involved
like,
with all of this.
yeah, like this
Uh,
is like this whole thing started all the way back in Shadowkeep
yeah.
with
So
Eris and the nightmares and discovering that there's been a pyramid ship, tetrahedron ship. If I find one more person that calls it a frickin' pyramid, I'm gonna lose it. Tetrahedron ship inside the moon this whole time, like since the first collapse,
right.
essentially, and
we
it's
know
just sitting
Eris.
there dormant.
We know Eris has stasis. Bring her into the story at this point. have her be the one that somehow subdues Savathun, but maybe she can't subdue her voice, and make the entire weekly the weekly routine be that we need to rebuild these connections within the Ascendant Plane to allow Mara to come back. Like make that the end objective. Not let's free these Techians one at a time per week for reasons.
I mean, don't get me
So
wrong. Have you ever dealt with ley lines before?
no, I suppose
So,
not.
so that could be a complicated thing. It could take a week to get
It could take
all
a
your
week.
all your maps together and your little, the little metal sticks they use where they're
Uh-huh.
like it could take a little while to get all that set up and find the exact ley line connections where it's like, hey, this is where I need to enter at. This is where I need to interact at. This is where I need to extract from. Could take some time.
I just think that I personally would have been much more invested in bringing Mara back instead of her just being a stationary, doesn't really do anything character for 6 months.
It is kind of
where
frustrating that like she's standing there and you can go talk to her and she has nothing to say.
anything.
There's no idle dialogue for her. I've sat there for like hours. She never says a word.
Which yeah. But I would have been more invested in bringing her back, making her the central character in that way. And maybe we still get dialogue from her. Maybe we can receive transmissions, but we can't like send, or we can only talk via, radio or something. And then when after those, 6 weeks go by or whatever, that is the point where we have actually built the bridge, and she can walk across the Ascendant Plane and get to us, and then she alone has the power to do, to destroy Savathun's worm or something.
Fully lock away the
like
to fully encase her, fully lock her away to where she can't even invade our thoughts or talk to us anymore or anything.
Like,
No, I could definitely see like
that would be more compelling to me, and it would better retain her original character in my
her mysteriousness, her regalness, her
and now like we did the best we could, and we fought to get her here, and now that she's here, she just has the power to step in and like snap her fingers and say, you don't get to talk anymore. I know what you do.
But then we wouldn't have 7 weeks of us going and rubbing up against her in her throne room.
I think that might just be you.
that 2.5 minute silence there was literally the longest silence in the history of anything. But yes, I can. Yes, these are valid points.
So that is my one main complaint that I would leverage against
your one main complaint that has taken at least a fourth of this podcast.
That is right. That is how you do a rant.
You goddamn right.
So now that we've gotten all that out of the way,
I can definitely see your side of that. Like that's I agree with you in the sense of like, we are not writers, we're not part of the Bungie staff, we're not part of the overarching like maybe there's something crazy that's going to happen during the dawning or the 30th anniversary or something, because we like obviously we still have all of those events that are happening, but that's still like a month away for all those to even start happening. And then those are going on and then we got the entire Moments of Triumph. Do we know when the Moments of Triumph is happening? Is that after the dawning?
We don't at the moment.
I didn't even know if we had like a rough timeline. Like, is it starting with the 30th anniversary, or is it just part of the dawning, or is it post dawning?
I don't think they've got it on a calendar yet. I don't think it's.
I don't think so either. Like, I think a lot of this next like 2 months is 2 or 3 months. It feels like it's kind of being played by ear.
Yeah, well, we've got Festival of the Lost going on until the end of next week.
Yep.
So that
till Tuesday,
that
right?
Up 3 weeks. Yep. And then we're into November. and I think Dawning and the 30th anniversary are happening pretty much at the same time.
That's what I thought too. And for
So
some
that
reason, I
way the
had
free to play
December
players
something,
have Dawning,
December 7th or something
something
is
like that.
playing in my head for
Uh,
some reason.
yeah, and I interpret that as like that is going to be their plan for December is
Yeah.
Dawning and 30th
Dawning
anniversary.
30th anniversary,
Um,
keep everything up and running, keep everything patched together. Because right now
November.
apparently there's a pretty bad game breaking glitch going on right now that
Yeah,
um
if
people.
you know it, do not replicate it. It will auto ban you, from what I've heard.
I was going to say I'm not even gonna mention what it is or how it's
No,
done or anything because I haven't looked into it. All I know is error. What was the error, Sweets?
What? Oh, rutabaga.
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 If you get a rutabaga error, you might possibly get banned permanently.
Yeah,
So
you've been bad.
be aware of that. Don't do things that you're not. Don't glitch things that you're not supposed to glitch. Which I guess if we were to take that literally, like a glitch is literally something that you found that you weren't supposed to do in the first place. So just stop glitching the game. Just play the game the way the game is meant to be played. And that's the way God designed it. Not the ways you as the consumer or player have interpreted it, because that's wrong.
There's a whole can of worms in that statement that we're not going to get into. Instead, we are actually going to loop back now on track to Season of the Lost and our good friend Crow. We've already touched on the how Season of the Lost starts.
That was too much. I wasn't ready for that. Segue, end, go. Next topic.
Yep. So someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to keep this train on the tracks, right? So we get in. So now that rant over. Story begin. Story resume. So we get into the main chamber, and magic happens. She's encased in stasis. Mara's there. You're there. Saint's there. Saint is just like so distraught, right? Like he's just like over the moon, just like can't handle shit. Like I'm like I want to find Osiris and I want to like crush her larynx underneath my boot and like do Titan things to her that a Titan would do.
I'll go full Titan on that Savathun.
Pretty much, like that's very much what Saint is and obviously, and I think even to the point where Saint starts putting out like a weekly broadcast of like, Osiris, I know you're out there. I know you do the same for me. I'm still looking for you. I haven't given up hope. I will find you. It's such a that I'm still loving that part of the story. Like that's
yes,
as
I will
much
agree
as much as the Mara portion. I can definitely agree that I don't feel like it was handled 100%, because especially by like week 3 or 4, it really felt like it kind of like lost its luster, right? Like the first week you're like, oh my god, Mara's back, what's gonna happen? And then by like week or 4, like 3 or 4, you're just like, okay, I'm rescuing your Techions, and now what?
yeah. So, but yes, I totally agree. All the interactions, all the character development happening, honestly, with Savathun herself, like really, really good stuff. Her
weekly talks we have with her are just
as well as
genuinely
Crow.
confusing, and
she puts a spin on stuff, which is so interesting to see.
Well, and that's what you would want from a goddess of trickery.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like somebody who is literally the epitome of deception and trickery, to put a spin on every little thing, to literally, see everything from a different point of view. Like I think that's the main thing.
I think the probably one of the easiest examples to see how she's doing this is she talks about kind of all of the past interactions you have had with Osiris or her as Osiris. And the one that sticks out as the biggest difference for me is, Lakshmi
Yep.
opening a Vex gate in the middle of the city, under the direction and supervision of Savathun as Osiris, and rather than our view would be she directed Lakshmi to open a Vex portal with the intention of at least murdering all the Elixni, and it brought ruin and death to the city until we were able to contain it. And she spins it as like, I dealt with your racist robot problem, essentially.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like it, and again, that it's that level of like, who history is written by the. There's a saying that
History is written by the victor.
yeah, like, and I'm gonna throw a little musical in here for a bit.
Oh boy.
There's a really big name musical. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It has a really well known Broadway actor. Are they actors? Are they
Yes. Yeah,
performers?
the
Broadway
term still
performers?
applies.
Um,
They're
uh,
still acting.
well, or I guess actress. The actress's name is um, let's see here. John Travolta referred to as Adele Dazeem. Um, her actual name is Adina Menzel, and she played she played in a little Broadway hit called Wicked. Um,
Oh yes,
which is
almost no one knows about that one.
nobody knows what Wicked is. That's right. um, there's a line from the Wizard in there, where he's talking about how like Elphaba kind of confronts him and is like, hey, you lied to these people, and he's like, I mean, I didn't lie to them, I just didn't correct them, and then he talks about how like a man's called a traitor or a liberator, a rich man's a thief or he's a philanthropist. It's all these little like different spins and different ideas on the like, okay, well, why do we think of such and such in such a light? Because that's the way it's always been told to us, and that's the way it's always been written to us. But then as soon as it's shown from a different point of view, the way that Savathun is showing us or trying to show us, like, I don't want to say her point of view, because it nothing seems like everything is coming from her point of view. Like she's just trying to put some sort of spin on it to have a spin on it, right? Like it.
Yeah.
I don't see her as saying, oh well, you saw it as this crazy robot, and I was just like, hey, I can solve your crazy robot problem or anything like it. She definitely has some weird, not weird.
She never tells her side of events. She tells what events transpired by doing so puts herself in a good light. But she never reveals her motivations. She never reveals her thought processes.
Yep.
It's always very much like, oh yeah, this is what happened, and these are the things I did that were good.
Yeah. Yep. That's yes. That is yes. Yep.
So, but no, all the character development outside of Mara, for me personally, I think was very well done and continues to be well done. And I say there's a couple of pieces from not lore books per se, but a couple of items that are pertinent to kind of the beginning of the season here.
Okay.
And set the stage in a couple ways. So the first one that I find interesting is that so we know that Mara has essentially told the Awoken not to interact with Crow.
Yeah.
Don't seek him out, don't talk to him, any of that. And there's a particular Awoken that has an interaction with Petra.
With Petra.
In regards to this. This is on
you were gonna bring him up.
This is on the Eternal Recurrence. which is a sparrow, I believe. Sparrow or a ship.
I think so.
Uh,
I was hoping you were going to bring them up because I think I just read this last week, and I
yeah.
was like, oh my god.
So, well, the paraphrased or not paraphrased, but the abridged version of Eternal Recurrence goes like this. Julian pressed his eye to the Supremacy's massive scope. I heard he's back, he said. Then you heard wrong. Petra squinted through the rangefinder. You know how it is with Guardians. He goes by Crow now. Julian snorted. Ironic. Only Aldrin could make immortality a demotion. He took a lot of abuse after he rezzed, Petra said, breaking the silence before it could fully settle. And never knew why. Gave him a bit of humility, if you can believe it. Julian lifted his head, shifting his focus from the scope to Petra's inscrutable expression. He raised an eyebrow. I'd like to see that for myself. I know, Petra pressed her lips together in sympathy. That's why I'm here. Mara thinks it's best if we limit his contact with others. Keeping him in her pocket, huh? Aldrin might have changed, but it sounds like Queen Mara is the same as ever. Petra's tone hardened. Be that as it may, you've got your orders. Stay away. It's fine, Julian said with a smile. It didn't reach his eyes. I've gotten used to Aldrin being dead. Probably best he stays that way.
That like
So,
with the fact that they brought Julian back and was like,
yeah.
hey, this guy who was literally like your brother and was I mean, I truly think of them as like being attached at the hip type thing.
Oh, yeah.
Went into the Black Garden together, even under the idea, like Julian was just like, this is stupid. Like we should not be doing this. And Aldrin's like, come on, let's just have a little bit of fun. And then they go through this Black Garden, have this whole experience, which quite literally drives Aldrin insane. And how Julian kept his sanity is
Yeah, it's very
quite frankly a
surprising.
miracle. Uh, and now it's kind of come full circle to like he's right back out there with his supremacy, and just like like when Aldrin when Julian first came back to Aldrin and they had an interaction, and it was almost like Aldrin like wasn't even noticing him, like had almost completely
Yeah.
forgotten about him, right? Like, and now it's kind of come full circle where it's like, okay, Aldrin's back, but he's not. His body is back,
But
and maybe some form of his personality is back. Maybe
Mhm.
is and we've talked about this too with Guardians Resing and stuff like that. That driving force, that underlying subtext of whatever makes a human, and specifically not just a human, an individual. That is still there very much, but Aldrin the person is dead.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing about there the it,
Well,
I'll
I
leave
say
that
on
I'll
that
leave
point,
that spoiler for soon.
on that point, I actually want to go into the next lore card here, and this is actually on the Wayfinder's compass.
Okay.
This one's a little long because it's a number of entries kind of all listed out here, but it gives us little explanations of what Crow has been doing. I think technically prior to the season, um, or I think immediately after the start of the season.
Because as soon as Savathun becomes, or as soon as Osiris turns fully crystallized Savathun, all Crow wants to do is just get in there and talk with her.
Yeah. Yep.
Like
So
he's trying to figure out like what's real, what was a lie, like how much of Osiris was talking to him, and how much was Savathun just
yeah.
feeding him line after line of bullshit.
Yeah. So I think this must have been just prior to the season, or in I don't know the time period between when he was being barred from going to see Savathun or something along those lines. It doesn't specify. Uh, but we get some interactions of Crow actually exploring what I believe are pieces of the Dreaming City, as well as some of the Ascendant challenges within the Dreaming City
Oh,
that we
really?
hop into. So again, this is
Do
all on the Wayfinder's
tell.
Compass. So the first one is titled The Cimmerian Garrison. Borrowed a Wayfinder's Compass. It keeps leading me to places that are almost familiar, but there are missing pieces. I tell Glint I feel drawn here when he asks. I know he doesn't buy it, but he doesn't want to call me a liar either. It's pretty deep in the caves. Found a shard of glass, stained with queen's foil. Sniffing the glass made my mouth flare with menthol. Smelled nostalgic. It's the only way I can explain it. The second entry is Ouroborea. Compass keeps leading me around here, but only for a few weeks at a time. I feel like I know which weeks it'll be before the compass tries to bring me here. It's like an internal clock going off. I saw a taken wizard disappear in thin air. I feel like I should know why, but it's buried underneath a fog. I'll keep looking and see if it clears up. Next entry is Forfeit Shrine. Waking up on that gravestone was like carving a border through my brain. Sometimes I feel like things cross over it, one way or the other. But it blurs, and I'm not sure if it's something new or just new to this me. I remember standing here, making a wish. I don't know if it was before or I just know it's something I started doing or kept doing back when I first became a light bearer. I'd flick coins off the cliff and whisper little wishes. Nothing big, just little stuff I thought I could get away with. Seems a lot less silly now that I know about Ahamkara. The next entry, Shattered Ruins. There's this spot near the spine of Karis. Big guy, that Karis, carrying the whole Dreaming City on his back. Her back? Anyway, every day I realize how little I actually know, and no one seems keen on filling in the blanks. It feels right here, like home. Glint tells me there's some kind of palace hidden underneath the Dreaming City, but I just see more mist. Jumping might be a good idea. Worst it could do is kill me. Maybe I'll see something useful on my way down. Glint disagrees. The next entry, Keep of Honed Edges. There's something wrong happening here. When I touch the stone architecture, it feels hollow. Not physically, but like it's an imitation of what it used to be. I don't like how familiar that feels. I think I can hear voices. And the last entry, Agonarch Abyss. I was standing in the bay for a long time before I figured it out. All of these places, they're gateways. Not the only ones, I think. The Queen's foil does the trick. Thanks, Glint. The taste is, well, it's still disgusting. Still nostalgic. What does it say about me if I'm starting to like it? Now I just need to get enough so I can map out all of these secret paths. Time to go hunting. So that's the end of the entries on the Wayfinder's Compass. I'm
So
pretty sure.
those are absolutely all 6 Ascendant realms.
Okay,
Keep of
I
Honed
definitely
Edges.
knew
I literally just
some of
went
them were.
now to look at the Ascendant challenges because I remember we were trying to get the speed. I think you've already finished the speed runs, but I still need
Yeah.
3 more for the final badge there. But it's the Keep of Honed Edges, Shattered Ruins, Argonaut Abyss,
Yep.
or
Agonarch Abyss.
Ouroborea,
Ouroborea, yeah.
Forfeit Shrine, and Chimerian Garrison.
Okay. Yeah, I knew some of those names were the challenges, but I hadn't looked up the others to compare.
Those are literally the 6. So he is actively coming through and seeing the different, and the fact that it's on a timer because it's
Yep.
every 6 weeks, right? Like week 1 is one of them, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. Although the Dreaming City itself is stuck in a 3-week loop, which and this brings up a lot of things, right? Like we genuinely thought that killing Quoria would end that 3-week loop, and that 3-week loop is still
Hypothetically,
happening.
yeah. So, yeah, that leaves some questions about the mechanisms of that loop. Maybe Quoria did set up the things that cause it to loop, but Quoria itself was not the engine. Maybe it just made the engine that keeps that going.
And that's where I'm curious. So obviously we know that, or we know now that when Witch Queen launches, and we kind of knew that something like this was going to happen because of the way that the Destiny world is getting huge as far as a file size, and it's genuinely becoming a strain under its own code.
Mm.
They are having to remove areas to make room for more areas, so that way the game size isn't like 700 gigs, right?
Yeah, they're not going for the Call of Duty numbers.
No, absolutely not. So the Dreaming City is staying.
Yes, but the Tangled Shore is not.
The Tangled Shore is not. The Forsaken Story is not. But do we know if the Dreaming City is staying as it is?
Well, I think an important distinction there is that the Forsaken Story is not staying,
Yeah.
which means, hypothetically, and I think they approach every time they vault something, I think they approach it from the perspective of what makes sense if someone starts the game at Witch Queen.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make sense, in my opinion, for the Dreaming City to be on a cycle if there were no story to explain how it got to that point. If you're a new player that just starts the game at Witch Queen,
Did you have no idea about Quoria?
Nope.
You have it.
You have no idea about Aldrin.
Okay. So I saw a Reddit post today that made me think of this exact thing. It's a little minute and 20 about minute and 20-second video of this guy in the EDZ, and he says, "I was exploring around the EDZ and found this. Anybody know what it is? Is it future content? What the hell is this?" And he's strolling through an area that we just talked about in our 3 podcasts ago. He's walking through Niobe Labs.
Ah,
And he has no idea what it is.
yep.
And it's funny because it has 10.5 thousand upvotes and 0 downvotes. And every single comment is, "Oh, if only I could tell you the stories." Or, "Oh man, do I miss my ringing nail? God, do I miss my blast furnace? Oh my God, the Niobe Labs, that was the greatest thing ever. I remember clearing that as a 3-man fire team, and I remember doing this, and I know Margie and I went and did the storyline portion of it that has you bring the Obsidian Accelerator back to Ada."
Yeah.
But you're right though. Like if somebody comes into the story at Witch Queen and comes to the Dreaming City, and there's this whole thing about this 3-week cycle and a curse, and there's like, why? What the hell is all this about? Like, or even like you do this whole thing with Uldren, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is cool. So now he works for us. Now he's a guard. Because
people were already getting confused about that.
Right.
People that joined with Beyond Light and played, through the seasons of Beyond Light, they, unless they go back and intentionally look stuff up, or they go back and play the entirety of the Forsaken campaign, which is still available as of this recording,
and will be available soon for free
and will be
until Witch
available
Queen.
soon for free. But unless they went back and did that campaign specifically, because you do not get anything for doing it,
No.
like reward wise, all the rewards are unusable for the most
Yeah.
part.
They're all, from my understanding, they're
Uh,
all sunset stuff. They're all
yeah. So
like,
unless you
it's not
played
even like
through
you get
it,
like a random roll of a new item that's
yeah.
been reissued. It's literally all old stuff.
So unless you played through it purely for the story content, anyone that started with Beyond Light don't even know who Crow was
Right.
before he was Crow. Uh, and so I think that and I even within the seasons, I saw people talking about, new players talking about like, hey, who's this Crow guy? Why is he in the helm and on the Tangled Shore? Like for people that joined halfway through kind of thing.
Yeah. That's even more
Um,
confusing.
so I think they are going to, and I think it makes a lot of sense for them to approach the vaulting of Tangled Shore and Forsaken, and how they deal with Dreaming City from a new player perspective, where I'm assuming the curse will be broken. For all the veteran players, the curse was broken. For all the new players, they never experienced a curse in the first place.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe they change up the content that's there to a degree. Give
Maybe we'll see
Petra
more of the
some.
Dreaming City.
Yep. Dreaming City can remain a patrol zone in the way it is. And say maybe give the blind well a coat of paint or something. Remove any bounties referencing the Ascendant challenges, or leave the Ascendant challenges in and just make all of them available.
Sure.
Uh,
Because if Crow's finding them on a 3-week basis, like,
yeah.
there's
So
nothing to say that they don't. And obviously we're walking the Shattered Realm every week. Like, I mean,
yeah.
hell, I can go run the Shattered Realm right now. Like, it's just an area that we go to now. So walking into the Ascendant Plane, it's funny to me to think of the Ascendant Plane in terms of the Guardian, because, like, when we were first messing with the Taken King, and Eris is like, in order to even enter that realm, you must become Ascendant. Like, you have to go through a ritual, and you have to reek of hive ascendancy to even enter this plane. And now we enter it like it's like we're walking through a door.
I think we got all the ascendancy we needed when we killed Oryx.
I'll give you that one. I'll definitely give you that one.
uh,
Um,
but yeah,
Wait, wasn't
like,
ascendancy one of the weapons?
it is the weapon from this season. Actually, it is the seasonal weapon you get, the rocket launcher.
Is that what I'm thinking of? Yes, that's what I'm
I
thinking of. That's
yeah,
yep. Okay, nope. I was thinking we were doing a pun on some weapon from Oryx, but
no.
I am dumb and mixing thoughts in my head. Uh,
But so, needless to say, Crow has been exploring these Ascendant Challenge areas, and he's being guided there by the Wayfarer's compass, and he is feeling familiarity about them, about being in the Dreaming City, and about the taste of Queen's Foil, and just like it's that foggy kind of vague deja vu feeling, and is how I interpret it.
and I'm curious because, so the only other, I mean, I guess short of Fellwinter, but the only other Guardian that we have any reference that has actively looked into their past is Anna Bray.
As far as I know, yes.
And so I'm curious if she had some of these feelings, right? Like, waking up with a badge on your hip, going, "What the hell is this badge? What is, like, where am I? What am I doing? What is this place like? And why does this badge have a picture on it?" And then going to a mirror and going, "Oh my god, this looks like me. Like, what is this? Like, what is going on around here?"
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
I do
curious if
wonder.
that same fog kind of
And
existed for her and Fellwinter, and then, like, as they go through everything, like, they're like, "Okay, this is making more and more sense and more sense. Okay, click. Okay,
yeah.
fully clicked."
I think for Anna, does to a degree. I don't think she remembers her past. But I think in Anna's case,
I think she remembers her past but only through the lens that she's been able to see it now.
explain.
You know what I mean? Like she doesn't remember that she's Anna Bray.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's no way for a guardian to do that.
But I think she she might get the same kind of vague familiarity that
yes,
Crow is describing. I think that's why she's probably so trusting and
Rasputin.
and just never believes Rasputin can be hostile towards her.
Right.
For really no good reason.
Right. Like
Other
she is the guardian. She is the guardian. Anna has no, like there's no way for her to know this. She just has this gut feeling about it.
Yep.
And that familiarity about it. So that's interesting to me that Crow would have kind of the same thing. And I mean, you would expect him to have it around the Dreaming City, right? Like even when the interaction of that other awoken warlock that had with him, where it's like, oh shit, you're Reefborn. Hey, I'm Earthborn. What's up, brother? Like, that whole thing. You know that Crow was eventually going to find his way to the Dreaming City. Like it. Ever since Petra opened the gates of the Dreaming City to the Guardians to say, hey, we need freaking help. Please come help us. And
he
that's
woke up there.
Right.
That's where he was resurrected.
That's literally where he res. Like there's no way he wouldn't go back to where he res and go, this means something. Like what I was quote unquote born here. Like
and it
what
talks
does this
about mean? I don't even think we touched on it, but there's a line or two in the Season of the Hunt dialogue describing when Spider found him for the first time, and kind of his initial and even earlier than that, his initial traipsings across the solar system. He carries and wears as like a cloak, as his first hunter cloak, essentially the burial shroud that he had when he was resurrected. And I'm paraphrasing a bit, but I think it was something on the lines of like he kept it as proof that somebody cared enough about him to lay him to rest with.
To lay him to rest. Yep. That was the thing there, that like that connection, right? So that it's he's not just this unknown thing. He's not just a body that's just like, hey, I now have this little drone and this is what I am now. He knows that there's more to him than what he is in the now. He just doesn't know what it is.
So he wants to find out though, or he's got this draw towards it. And so we see him use Wayfinder's compass to go around the Dreaming City, and in addition to that, he is a very, I would say, desperate need to meet with Savathun.
Right.
Because, he goes, regardless of if she was, Osiris in disguise, like, Osiris was still the only person that I knew for most of my life that actually seemed to give a shit about me.
That A, didn't turn my ghost into a bomb and use the piss out of me, or B, beat the piss out of me for my past life to the point of I'm bleeding out for hours on end until I die, and then my little drone resurrects me, and we just kind of sit in silence for the next couple of days. Like
Osiris, or Savathun as Osiris, was the first person to ever show any kind of acceptance and compassion and like
kindness, just general kindness, like any sort of feeling that wasn't hate or malice or personal gain or
say, and arguably the only.
It's super funny that we say, or that I say, personal gain.
Yeah. Because we know that it's never purely out of the kindness of her heart.
Savathun always does everything out of the kindness of her heart. She's the only one telling us the truth this whole time.
Yeah. And I think the only saving grace really for Crow's character and like mental stability in a lot of cases is the fact that we as the player guardian also were showed him kindness and compassion.
Yep.
Um,
Because
and
when we get there, like or at the end of the season of the hunt, when we're like, I want him, he needs to be freed. Like, we're going to give him a second chance because we know as a guardian what happens to the guardian when they become a guardian. Like the
mhm.
person before is no more. There is now the guardian, and he has an innate driving force. 9 times out of 10, that's to fight for the light. It's We're genuinely getting to the point where it's like kind of hard to figure out what the hell we're even fighting for or why we're even fighting. And I think we
Yes.
talked about this in one of our podcasts of like, with the ghost is risen, or the ghosts were sent out from the traveler with like no instructions, no anything. And then now they've got these risen that are running around barbaric like, and then that slowly tones down into the guardians that we know of today, like the city age and all that. And like we still have rogue guardians here and there. Like obviously, we got the Drifter running his games, however, whatever. We still have no context as to why Gambit exists. Like, what is the Gambit? Like, what is going on there at all?
So yeah, I think the Gambit is uh I think Gambit the game mode is just supplying Drifter with resources.
Yeah,
And I think Gambit as in like what's the gamble
yeah.
is Drifter gambling of whether he should stay in the Soul System or take those resources and load up an interstellar ship and just go to the next galaxy over.
And you were telling me about this before too, where he talked about he went to an ice planet. And I was like, oh, that's got to be Europa. And he's like, no, 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 no. That was in a different system.
Yeah,
Like that was not in the Soul System. So that's
he has
we know
done
that.
interstellar travel.
Yeah, we know that he doesn't have any. I don't want to say any desire, but like he doesn't have any like. There's nothing tying him down. Like everything to him is just, where's the next angle? Where's the next meal? Where's the next whatever?
He's very
And
much survival of
himself. Yeah, not even survival of the fittest, literally survival of himself. Like what is the next thing I need to do to keep going to the next day?
Yeah.
And so that's like it, but anyway, the whole fact that like there are these guardians that are like that, for somebody to show Crow any type of compassion was just a huge move, like a huge thing to Crow. And for it to come from us, the player, obviously that like that's where it had to come from, right? Like
Yeah.
that would help us as the person playing the character build this relationship with him and kind of like, okay, let's try to get to this point of like, yes, he's Uldren, but he's not Uldren.
Yeah.
It is just Uldren is the body that is there in front of us. That is the body of Uldren Sov. But the guardian that inhabits it now is different.
Yeah. And it's hard to describe because they are, but they aren't. It's like
Right.
they are the purest form, the most innocent form of the person that they used to be.
Innocent. That's a good word for that. That's a really good word for that.
Because they still
I
have the
like
same personality, they still have the same
right.
mannerisms,
The same
but
drive.
they don't
all
have
of that
any
stuff.
of the past experiences to draw on,
Right.
and they don't have any of the past biases to draw on. It's very much a
Yeah.
like blank
Fresh
slate
start. Yeah.
of what that of who that person is.
Interesting. That's a good way of putting it. I like that.
So I say in the interest of time, I'm gonna keep pushing through. I've got
So you can say we haven't
1, 2,
even
3.
you said stretch this out and we stretched.
Yeah, I have 5 lore entries that I would like to get through.
I
At
thought
some
you were going to
point.
say I've got 5 pages still to get through.
No.
Okay. Turns out
So
Season of the Lost is more like Season of the Lost content.
yes.
Rant begin. Rant over.
So Crow is trying to get through to see Savathun for all the reasons we talked about. And this is a scene that happens in game. He is barred from entry to Mara's throne room, which is where Savathun's being held, by Petra.
Yep.
And they have some words. Essentially, he's saying like, I deserve to be able to go in there and talk to her. You know, I'm the person that knew Osiris the best. I knew her as Osiris the best. And Petra of the mindset of like, you can go nowhere near her. She's already manipulated you this much. We can't let her get to you anymore. The queen has forbid you from entering. And I liked this little interaction. That line in particular, like the queen has forbid you from entering.
And his
Because
response to it.
yeah, because normally as Aldrin and Petra delivering a proclamation from the Queen for any awoken, non-guardian awoken, that is law.
Yeah. There's
Just
no questioning it. There's no
says don't do it. Be like, all right, and then just turn around and leave.
Yeah,
And
that's it. Like that's
Aldrin, out of anybody, would have been, I don't want to say the most subservient to Mara, but he very much like he would be a troublemaker, but he respected her more than anyone else.
absolutely.
And now Petra's like, nope. Queen says you're not allowed to go in. He's like, I don't fucking care what the queen says. Like,
Not just that.
She is not my queen.
She is not my queen. Those words were somewhat like I don't know. Like that was like a cut like a knife.
Yeah.
Like she's not my queen. Like
that was a pretty that point I think was probably what drove Petra to draw a knife on him more than his insults towards Petra.
Absolutely.
Because it is unheard of for, like I said, any non-guardian awoken, especially Aldrin, to just outright like besmirch his sister. And so needless to say, tensions rise. Petra draws a knife. Aldrin kind of laughs her off, like, what are you gonna do with that? I love the like, really, a knife against a hunter?
Against a hunter? Yeah, that's I did like that one too.
And they part ways, and Crow kind of dematerializes in a huff, and Petra turns to us and is like, you understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. We can't let her get to him. And we see both sides of the immediate aftermath of this interaction via the lore card art within the Ripples book, as well as the actual quest Wayfinder's Voyage and the dialogue that we have with Crow following that interaction. So if we follow Crow first, he dematerializes off, and he really goes like 20 feet to the other side of the helm.
Literally just walks to his spot in the helm.
It's very much just a dramatic exit to go back to his normal spot.
I get what they were going for, right? Like it was supposed to be like this whole transmat out effect, and then he's literally just like it's like he hit a loading screen. Like he just
it's essentially what happens when you're like at Shaxx and you just fast travel back to the middle of the tower to go talk to the Cryptarch. Like
that's it. Yeah. That's literally, you could have just walked like 20 feet that way, but no, you, the Guardian, have all these magical powers like transmatting. Like, oh, might as well use it, or I'm not gonna forget it. Like, okay, whatever.
So we talk to Crow, and we get this little bit of quest text. Crow is fuming after being barred from speaking with Savathun by Petra Venge. Venge thinks I'm vulnerable, and I'm just supposed to take a seat, he asks. He looks to you, pointing out that other people knew Osiris longer than he had, including yourself. He tells you he's tired of being held accountable for the actions of the person he used to be. Our past lives aren't supposed to matter, he says. Crow takes a moment and then nods to himself. He tells you he deserves answers, and he isn't going to wait around for someone else to give him permission. So Crow has very much resolved himself to like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I am done listening to people not allow me to do things based on somebody that I used to be.
That I don't even know.
Figure out my own way.
Like it's so much about like everyone tells me I'm not supposed to know who I'm supposed to be or who I was, but everyone is holding me accountable for that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone is treating me as if I am still that person. And it's such this double standard, right? Like this, I'm with Crow on it. It's fucking bullshit is what it is. Like that's what it is.
No, I'm with him too. And honestly, there'd be no way to do it. But if we had a little more agency in the game, I would love. Again, I don't know how it would ever play out, but if I could control what was happening in game, I would just take my character and be like, Crow, dude, let's grab a drink. I need to tell you a story about everything. Because you need to hear it from somebody.
I need you to hear about what the hell is going on here.
Yeah. Like
I know these two guys, they have this podcast. They do it every Monday. We could just tune in. We'll just listen to them. They'll tell you the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's nice. That's a good self plug right there.
Oh, bam.
But I would love to have had the opportunity in game to just been like, man,
he's been doing videos about this shit for years.
Yeah.
We got you covered, brah.
He has this silky voice, super easy to listen to. We'll be good.
We got you covered, brah. Yeah, that would be what we would do.
So unfortunately, we can't do that. So Crow has just kind of resolved himself to, I'm going to get in. I'm going to figure out what I need to figure out. And no one's going to be able to tell me otherwise.
Yep.
The other side of this interaction, we have what happened with Petra immediately after. And this is from Ripple's Chapter 4, Art. Petravenge hangs her head and examines the hilt of her sheathed knife. Transmat particles still swirl in the air around her like tiny flecks of dust as she steps back through the helm gate to answer her queen's summons. Marasov's voice washes over the chamber's stone and crystal. He belongs here, Petra. This place draws his old self out. She pauses, knowing Petra will be silent while allowing her to steep in the words. You saw it too. He should have never been allowed to leave. I wish I hadn't, Petra says with a heavy sigh. How am I supposed to proceed? Mara stands on the terrace above her. Give him only morsels of who he could be, nothing substantial. He is a canvas on which work has already begun. I mean only to guide that work to a familiar conclusion. Such things cannot be rushed. Petra shifts her stance anxiously. You're sure? Are you questioning me, Petra? Never, my queen. But I do worry that he is vulnerable to Savathun's influence, Petra offers. She clearly has taken an interest in him for some time now, and he clearly reciprocates that interest. Your words hold no falsehood. You and I will mitigate this danger. If Crow and Aldrin are to meet, it must be a subtle progression. Morosov leans over the terrace railing. I believe my brother's recovery is possible, Petra. Will you help me? Without a moment of hesitation, Petra responds, I will do anything you ask, my queen. But doubt springs in her mind. If he does become problematic, Petra trails off. You needn't worry, Mara soothes. If Savathun moves to exploit him, I will put an end to it myself. So there's a couple of bits here that I think are worth touching on.
I think one of the most obvious is the loyalness of the Awoken people to Mara.
It's and Petra especially.
Petra is literally the Queen's Wrath. Like she is the number two. She took over. I say she took over for Shiraido, but there's only been two Queen's Wraths,
Yeah.
Shiraido and Petra. So
It's what I think was originally represented as a deep respect and loyalty out of belief that their queen knew what was best is kind of skewing towards zealotry at this point. We're seeing it's not how to say it. Even when the Dreaming City in Forsaken was first corrupted, first had its curse. And we're going through and Petra contacts the queen for the first time. And Petra has been holding the awoken people together since the queen's death during the war with Oryx. And she never accepted the role of queen, which she had been offered. Petra could have been the second queen of the Awoken.
Yep.
And she's like, no, I know Mara is still alive. I know she is out there. She told me to wait for her, and I am going to wait for her. And it was loyalty born of confidence and born of love for their ruler. Not romantic love, but like the same way that someone has faith in, their country, or faith in whatever they subscribe to.
Sure.
It was that kind of like, I have the utmost confidence that this person would have never lied to me, and so I will continue to hold the line.
So I feel like it almost goes beyond like loyalty, right? Like it's there's very much it's because loyalty to a person, or loyalty to a cause, or loyalty to a people, or whatever, like that's one thing. But this is Petra is very much like
maybe?
Devotion. Yeah, I mean it's to a fault.
Well, and I suppose if we look back at our discussions about Mara originally, the Awoken people, based on her discussion with Sir Ido about, Mara's godhood, outside of Sir, based on their conversation, it seems that the Awoken people truly revere Mara as a god.
Yeah.
So maybe it truly is devotion in a religious sense. Maybe that is what is driving, and
they see her as a literal god,
as a deity, and Petra being the closest person to that deity. If we're trying to draw real world conclusions, then, or real world comparisons, then we could maybe equate Petra to something of like the Pope, as far as like in the closest quote unquote mortal to the deity that their faith is around.
Yeah, I could see that comparison.
So,
albeit a pope with like a gun and a sword
and knife tricks
and boobs.
Yeah, that too.
Yes. Man.
God damn it.
God damn it.
So
maybe if the Pope had boobs, I'd pay attention more in Sunday school. No.
But so I think we're on the right track though. This is like a religious zealotry in their belief in what she says. And Petra, I think, feels that more so than anyone else. My wife can only hear
half of this podcast right now, and so all she hears is that, and she was just like, "Excuse me." All right. I'm good. Petra's my new bae. I don't know.
Yeah. And this is why editing exists.
Oh, damn it.
So needless to say, there's that bit, the interaction, just the that level of faith, that level of
Sure.
belief, in this interaction between, of Petra to Mara. And then in addition to that, Mara has said to Petra essentially, she believes that Aldrin is still in there somewhere, and that Crow and Aldrin can meet, and that she wants to steer the person that Crow turns into, essentially. She wants to guide the work to a familiar conclusion, which is this is a tad bit of like what I consider the quote unquote old Mara, or this is more in line with what we've seen before from
More
her.
of the mystery Mara, more of the
Yeah.
I've always had a plan Mara.
And we see it related to in some other interactions with her, where she talks to the Guardian about I think in the Aegir Scepter quest, about if things had gone differently, if things had gone how I had wanted them to go originally, then I would have Aldrin the Light Bearer.
Yeah,
I would be able to wield Aldrin the
I would
Light
have
Bearer.
wielded Aldrin the Light Bearer. Or no,
So,
she doesn't say the Light Bearer because she says
no, she said,
Aldrin Light Bearer,
comma,
and that's where
Light
we had
Bearer.
a confusion of, is she saying Aldrin and then just taking a breath and saying Light Bearer, or is she
Yeah.
like, I would
Is
have wielded
she?
Aldrin, you asshole Light Bearer, like
Yeah.
pointing at us like you like.
She using Light Bearer as a title for Aldrin, or Light Bearer as a reference to us?
As almost a derogatory reference to us, like
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and that it very much shows that she has had designs for quite some time for Aldrin to have the ability to wield the light. I don't know that necessarily means that she predicted or knew about his death at our hands. I don't believe that she predicted that to be the case.
So here's a Savathunian spin.
Ooh.
For him to wield the light or the dark.
Well, he's a guardian. He can do both.
Well, if he hadn't become a guardian, we know that non-guardians can wield the dark.
This is true.
Aegir Scepter is stasis.
Can Awoken wield the light if they're a non-guardian by nature of being, touched by both?
Well, shit.
I guess would be the question.
Well, shit.
We
damn,
know
I had this
Mara...
really cool moment. Let me have my moment, damn it.
I say we know they're paracausal beings.
Right.
We know they're naturally paracausal. So it's we don't know what her original plans were.
Right.
We just know that she wants to use him as a weapon.
Right.
A light wielding weapon. And although her maybe original designs of how that was going to happen didn't end up happening exactly as planned, she still intends to use her interactions with him and his proximity to her with everything that's going on to steer him towards essentially becoming someone she could still use, is how I read it.
Right.
She wants him to turn into someone that would either still be loyal to her or that she would be able to control to her designs. Which, although is fucked up, is still classic Mara.
That would be Mara. Everything's a tool. Everything's some type of grand design. Something for her grand plan, her grand design.
Yeah. So, as Crow, Mara is saying, nope, keep him away from Savathun. We need to make sure this goes by our plan, slow and steady. Paint him as the man we want him to become. Crow going, I don't care what they're trying to do, why they want me to stay away. I'm gonna figure this crap out. I'm gonna meet with Savathun. And through ways yet undisclosed, he sneaks into Mara's chambers and has his meeting with Savathun.
That and I wanted to talk about that for a second. How the hell? Okay, let's do it as a gameplay thing, right? Like,
yeah,
he's a hunter, so he has invisibility. I'll give him that. As the Crow, as Uldren, we knew he was a very good sniper. He and Jolien were constantly playing each other shot for shot. So I assume they know how to use active camouflage very well, right? Because from a military sense, from me looking at it as a military side, snipers are some of the most like revered people in the art of camouflage. They in a field they could be sitting right in front of you and you wouldn't even know that they're there, type thing.
Yeah.
I suppose, but this is Mara's chamber. I'm pretty sure she knows everything that's going on in there.
And
she has a damn Ahamkara bone egg 20 feet from her. You tell me she didn't see the little shimmer of an invisible guardian walking through her freaking portal?
Well, and let's not forget that Mara, by her own admittance, again, I think this was during the Ager's Scepter quest, says that she felt Uldren when he revived. Like, she felt the quote unquote the second heartbeat, the twin heartbeat. So she has a connection to Crow on that level, even
so
if
that brings up a question.
Yes, but even if
is it because does she feel that because he's her twin? Does she feel that because of some grand design of her and the distributary and the creation of that and the creation of the awoken people, or does she feel that because he is awoken and she inherently has a connection with every awoken being? And if she has that connection with him as an awoken, does she have that connection with every single awoken guardian?
So these are all good questions. My interpretation of her connection to Uldren / Crow specifically is that it's a twin thing.
Okay.
Because they are described as having like almost this telepathic sense with each other, even prior to them being awoken, when they're humans aboard the Exodus Green.
Right.
So I think that in particular, that connection is just inherent to them. However, we do know she has a connection to the Awoken in general. I wouldn't be surprised if that connection still exists, even for Awoken that are resurrected, whether they know about it or not.
Because we don't know if it's a, like when they came back through the distributary, that when they started hitting the Jinsum scribes started hitting each other with radiation,
mm-hmm.
and was like, hey, we're magic. We're just inherently magic. Like, we don't know how to explain it, so magic.
Well,
like we don't know if that was a telepathic thing. If that like, obviously since they are using radiation, they're using some sort of physical science to go with it to try to explain it. It could just be the connection is on a physical level, but like a particle level, right? Like such a minute, tiny individual level, as in like just the atoms of the awoken are inherently almost like quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
Right? Like every atom of every awoken, since it's been near a black hole, oh my god, I think I've just
lived in a black hole.
They literally lived in a black hole. Every single cell of every single molecule of every single awoken has been quantum entangled.
That's a cool thought.
That's I don't know
It is.
why I've never thought of it from that point of view, but that's literally why she can talk to him. That's why she can feel everyone.
Which I guess the question then becomes, if we are using that theory that it's on a molecular level, are resurrected awoken still the same at a molecular level?
Ooh, but we know that the light has a frequency, and we have described that frequency as being infinite.
Yes.
So does that frequency interaction of being rezzed change the quantum entanglement, the quantum properties of the molecular structure of the being that is the guardian to no longer be in tune with that other quantum particle?
I think an argument could be made that yes, it would change it just
I
by
feel
nature
really
of the
smart
fact.
right now. You know, like when like you walk in a room and you like when you were in like fifth grade and you were just like, yeah, I've seen boobs. What's up? And nobody else in the room has a clue what you're even talking about, and you feel like literally the greatest, smartest person in the world. That's what I feel like right now. That's literally what I feel like.
I'm sure everyone feels like quantum entanglement is the equivalent of pornography. Uh, so I would argue that
God damn it.
it's likely that being resurrected in the light probably uh, does have an effect on entanglement, just because it was the combination of light and dark that caused it in the first place, that caused the
Right.
black hole. So clearly it has the capacity to bring about that kind of phenomenon. So it probably doesn't leave things unscathed when it rebuilds them.
Yeah. That's
But
just that's just mind blowing. Like if that's true, like if we try to think of that from like a physical science
yeah, no,
point of
that's
view, like I feel like that's definitely a valid
no, I think
argument.
so too. I think so too. That is a very cool explanation for what could be going on there.
We did it. We did it, Bungie. We explained it with science. Now hire us, damn it.
Damn it.
I promise to stop making boob jokes.
Zora will never be allowed near flavor text ever.
I know. We've already demonetized this one.
So getting back to our story here, Crow sneaks his way in through who knows how, past Mara and her, I think like 5 or 6 Techians at that point.
Right, like there's like a whole circle of Techians, like just standing in the center of this place.
Tech witches
Yeah.
that are supposed to have essentially less grandiose versions of Mara's power. Anyway, we digress.
Who were literally like Mara was like, "Hey, I designate you people, figure out this magic shit."
Yeah.
And that's what they did for the last hundreds of thousands of years.
But apparently, they can't detect a lone hunter with a smoke bomb walking right in front of them.
Smoke bomb! Wow, that's way more effective when you use it rather than just screaming it. That's my new thing with Margie.
Who knew?
Anyway, so he goes in. He's standing there next to Savathun. You come up to him, and this whole thing plays out.
Yeah. So we get this discussion between Savathun and Crow. Him essentially saying like, "Why did you lie to me? Why did you manipulate me? Was it all a lie? Did you ever really care about me?" Getting very like ex-boyfriend / girlfriend vibes.
Yeah.
You
Was it
know,
even
and
real?
it really like that is what that interaction felt like.
Did you did
Um,
you did you even love me when we shared that meatball? Was that just was that just feelings? Was that just fake? Was it not that real?
so Savathun goes on to tell him that like, oh no, like
I
I
love those meatballs. I absolutely love spaghetti and meatballs. It's my favorite.
I cared about you. You know, we were both outcasts in our own ways, and like I felt a kinship towards you, and you know, I wanted to help you and make sure that your life was going to get better. And but you know, it's all the people here are trying to keep secrets from you. They don't all the people here don't want you to know anything about yourself, but how can you get better? How can you move on if you don't know where you came from, where you started? And if you want to know those answers, just touch the crystal, touch the prison that she's in. And
Touch my butt.
see, I was trying to avoid anything
Damn
that
it.
could go
I
there,
couldn't
but
stop. I couldn't resist myself. There it is.
I should have known better.
You should have
Uh,
known.
lay hands on.
Lay hands on my crystal, baby.
No, that's worse. That's worse.
Just touch me, baby. Yeah, that's way worse. That's way worse than just he touched your butt.
She what whatever do whatever we're trying to skirt around here, and she would give him that information that he's so long been desiring. She would show him who he used to be, and
Well, what
despite
she says.
and this is the big question. So despite what Glint's uh telling him like no, don't do it, you know, don't listen to her, she's trying to use you, like, you know, this is only going to be bad, he does it
To quote
anyway,
Finding Nemo, don't touch the butt. I'm gonna touch the butt.
and he does, uh and we get Crow supposedly getting his getting the memories of Aldrin. I guess I should say seeing the memories of Aldrin.
Getting something. We still have no idea what Savathun showed him.
And that's the big thing. The only clue we have is that we have a in the audio mix is a undertone of Aldrin saying everything I did for her, which is those are the last words he says, or not the last words, but so part of the last words he says uh, at the end of the Forsaken campaign, just before being shot by Petra and our Guardian.
Yep.
So presumably he at least saw that.
Yep.
When we ask Savathun, like, what did you show him? She says everything without any explanation.
Yeah. And we don't and again, her being the hive goddess of trickery and deception, everything from her is not to be trusted, right? Like it's what does everything mean? What is it everything she wanted to show him? Is it everything that he needed to see? Is it everything that Mara's been keeping from him? Is it what does everything mean?
And I think the big question that we may or may not get answered anytime soon is what was the mechanism to reveal those memories to him? And what I mean by that is it Savathun played a movie reel in his head of like, hey, this is Aldrin, this is who you were.
That's an interesting thought.
Did she unlock something to allow him to access the memories that have always been there?
In her research of dead ghosts and light stuff, did she find some way to revert the memory loss?
Yes, and this I think is the biggest question, because Mara in the reading we just had a little bit ago, Mara talks about she believes that Aldrin can be recovered. She believes, I believe my brother's recovery is possible. So Mara seems to have information at least suggesting to her that Aldrin or the memories of Aldrin can be recovered. We know, based on the Witch Queen trailer, that Savathun presumably has the powers of the light now and knows who she is. Savathun knows that she is Savathun and what her motivations and thoughts and memories are.
Right.
So
and if she has the power of the light and still has all of her motivations and knows who she is and all that stuff, then there's definitely some way to gain light abilities. And I think you said it best. Who do we decide? Amanda Holiday.
Yeah.
Would possibly be the first non-amnesiac guardian.
So here's another little bit to that Amanda Holiday theory from the last episode. Some interesting and potentially troubling things. So for all the reasons I discussed before, Amanda Holiday has been said by multiple people like you would make a great guardian. By Shax, by Mithrax, by Osiris as Savathun, by Saint. Like pretty much all the notable figures in the tower have been like, you have all the qualities that make a good guardian. However, the barrier to entry is a little steep, so like we don't want you to be one.
Don't go actively seeking it.
Yeah. However, we have in the season immediately following Season of the Splicer. So in Season of the Splicer, you have Saint and you have Osiris as Savathun. Both in that season make dialogue regarding Holiday's character and how much she aligns with the character of Guardians. This season, the season immediately following, we had a particular item come back into the loot pool called Spoiler Alert. And the flavor text on Spoiler Alert simply states, somebody's gonna die. The last time we saw the Spoiler Alert item in the weapon pool rotation at a power level that was usable,
God damn it,
was just prior to Forsaken.
God damn it.
And we all know what happened there. So that might all be spinfoil.
And it doesn't even have like a lore tab. Like there's no.
Nope.
It's literally just spoiler alert. Someone is gonna die, and if there's no like this could all be just subliminal messages, shits. But
so I could see Amanda Holiday being either, like I said before, either the first light wielder, the first guardian that didn't die prior to gaining the light, or she is killed probably by Savathun, knowing that she is a very good candidate to be resurrected by a ghost, to be an experiment, or however Savathun is doing her resurrections.
So we still have no idea the manner of her resurrections.
I mean, they in the trailer they seem very similar to what we see Argos do. They have the same color, light scan,
and even the rebuilding on a molecular structure.
Yeah.
Of the acolytes, right? Like it literally molecularly, like you see it like forming atom by atom type thing. So yeah,
I really think that I think Savathun has not manufactured light. I think she has it in some way, whether it be stolen or mind controlled or what. I think she has the light as we know it.
Sure. And like we because we don't know if it's like if she has it stored up in like a like a traveler ball. Like
Right.
she has
Yeah.
her own little like traveler ball orb thing. Like, hey, I got a light over here, and I can parse it out. 10 light bits at a time, and like is it like cryptocurrency? Is she just like farming that shit? I mean, if
So
she has
here's
all the if she has all the video cards right now, I'm just telling you right now,
blame Savathun for
I'm no
your lack
longer
of a
team
3080.
Savithick, and
Uh,
we'll go to team Amanda Thick. Like that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
I can support that one much more than Savathun. Uh, however, here's a thought, scary thought actually. In the trailers, and I guess I'd have to look, do we ever see Savathun with a ghost, or is she simply sending ghosts out to other hive? I think she's just sending ghosts out to other hive. I don't think she has
I
one
don't
like
ever remember
dedicated
seeing
to
her
her.
with a ghost.
So
Because if we saw her with a ghost, like that would be a direct.
here's the
What
bit
would you
I'm getting
call
at
that?
here. Here's the juxtaposition I'm getting at here. If Savathun in the trailers is being shown as sending ghosts forth to resurrect other hive, the most immediate comparison that I could make to that iconography, that symbolism, is the traveler sending out ghosts to resurrect humanity.
Absolutely. Which
So
to me would
maybe
mean she is wormless.
not only is she wormless, she is generating light.
Oh shit.
If she, perhaps the ghost she's resurrected, she
Because
presumably she cannot.
we have no type of like reference or anything of like do ghosts need to recharge or anything like that. Like
Well, we know if ghosts don't have a connection to the light, they don't work very well by nature of the Red War.
oh right. They don't work very well or or like
And they can't
the
provide. I think in the dialogue, the ghost says, like, I've lost my connection to the light. I can heal you, but I can't resurrect you. I can't bring you back from the dead.
right.
Um, which is interesting in and of itself. But so if we're continuing with this comparison here, I think prior to this, I have been operating under the assumption of Savathun steals the light from the traveler and then uses it and distributes it. Maybe she isn't stealing light from the traveler. Maybe she has found the source of light and is turning herself into a hive version of a traveler
Maybe that's why she wants to be free of her worm.
because she needs to have room
She
to accept.
she can't be beholden to two gods at the same time, right? Because we've always talked about how like the worms and the worm gods are like
Mhm.
they're kind of like the darkness equivalent of the ghost and traveler. Like we are as much
Mhm.
beholden to our ghosts as they are to their worms.
Well,
Like
and
everything we as a guardian have, the ability
yeah,
to res, the light, the ability to do everything we do is because of our ghost, albeit on a less parasitic level and more of
yeah,
a mutual like I say as a non-parasitic, like less parasitic. We still have no idea of the true intention of the ghost, right? Like
right.
it,
Or the
it,
traveler.
or the traveler. Like we're still like pawns in this giant game of chess, and the worms are very much a parasitic style thing. Like we have to be fed. We'll give you powers, but we have to be fed constantly, and that growth or that fed has an exponential growth to it, or that hunger
Mhm.
has an exponential growth to it. So it's it's interesting to me to see that from the other side of it and say, well, if Savathun, it like, is it possible to be beholden to both sides? Can you truly be a savior? I say savior, a deity of light and dark. Is that
Is that
possible?
not what Mara is?
Oh shit!
I mean,
Oh
I don't know
shit!
how else we would describe her. We already said she is a deity as far as the Awoken are concerned.
Oh
She has
shit.
paracausal powers and she is both touched by light and dark by nature of being an Awoken.
Oh shit.
And Savathun's endgame has always been not to swap sides from dark to light.
But to be above it.
It's been to be above it all. Knockers asked her, are what does he say in that? I'm going off memory here. It's something along the lines of are the masters here? No, I think it was sooner than that. But she essentially tells him, no gods. Like we will not follow anybody. We will
Right.
have our own path. So
In
if
the one where in the one where it's her as a thrall, it's just her voice coming through a thrall.
Yeah, in her
Talking to
discussion
Knockers.
with
Yeah, no,
Knockers.
I remember which one you're talking about now. Holy shit. Yeah, no, like she very much is wanting to be above whatever this game is being played. And I'm curious.
Or she
if
wants a seat at the table.
Oh.
If we have the entity of the dark as
and the light, she wants to be an equal to them. She doesn't. And I don't know. See, I still think of it as she wants to be above them. I don't think she wants to be an equal to, because she's been beholden to one for so freaking long. Like we say that, and you made the point tonight of like Mara is over 12.1 billion years old because of the time she spent in the distributary, but we don't know if, and we've theorized about this before, if Savathun has created pocket universes to try to feed her worm infinitely and not have to worry about the hunger at all.
I want to say she has tried that and failed.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly where I'm getting that from.
I remember that though.
I feel like I have a vague recollection, maybe in the Books of Sorrow somewhere,
maybe that's
where
it.
She tried to like make a infinity engine.
Yep.
That would continuously feed her worm, and for some reason I don't think it worked.
And either the Book of Sorrow or the Truth to Power.
It might have been Truth to Power,
right? Where the whole thing with Korea and the Dreaming City and trying to create a battery there, and literally just trying to create a time loop where it can feed the worm infinitely, right? And so if she's trying to do stuff with black holes, if she's trying to do something like that, we know that the distributary was inside a black hole, so it wouldn't be unreasonable to think that she has spent some time inside of a black hole, inside of a singularity, to try to replicate this.
She's familiar enough with them to have a thrall stuck in one to communicate with Knockers.
Right. So maybe she's just as old as Mara. And she's like, maybe she and Mara are like the two oldest beings in the universe right now, because they're the only ones that have screwed around with black holes in time, and that they're just like Mara sees it as like Mara's original plan, right? Which we still have no freaking clue what it was.
Yeah.
I still think of it like, we know that she wanted to come back to Soul. We know that when she created the distributary, and at the end of the distributary, when she was leaving, her whole goal there of the distributary was to come back to the Soul system to repay the debt of immortality. Like, and
well, that was what she told her
that's
followers.
what she told us.
We still don't know if that was her actual,
if that was
reasoning.
the true, exactly. And that's since that's the only reference we have to go on, that's what I'm going to base this on. If that is her goal, or if that is a goal of hers, or if that is a reasoning for her coming back, then if Savathun has spent the same amount of time, or less, or more, whatever, inside any type of singularity, to just be left alone with her own thoughts, or to see the plight of of millions, or even to just be free of the worm, to go back to the old ways of being the krill, right? Like the like just wanting to be free of this hunger.
That is one
Is it?
thing is Savathun has come across in this season, especially with some of the lore cards and whatnot, as being very nostalgic
Yes.
for how things were prior to their deals with the worms.
Which
I
makes me
don't know
wonder,
if
how
that's
long
the
has she
end
been like
goal, but
this? Has she been this way since the beginning? Has because do you remember which one of the sisters it was that when they found the ships, they were like, we need to die, we need to use this and explore.
I don't. I'd have to look.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
I
I'm
know
not
I know we're
sure.
getting short on time, so that's I don't mean to
No, no,
dive
no.
off the deep end all of a sudden with 2 minutes left or something. But yeah, no, like it'd be interesting to go back and see if that's who, uh, if Savathun was the original one that was like, we need to go explore, or Savathun was one of the original ones that was like, nah, fuck that, I'm going back.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at the Books of Sorrow. But
Yeah.
yeah, going back to Crow, we're nearly done or caught up with where we are currently in the game. So Savathun reveals his past, or whatever color variation of his past that she's decided he needs to see. Um, and we have a short discussion with him afterwards. And we get this quest text. Now I know the man I was, Crow says, anger rising in his voice. You can tell he wants to yell, to scream, to ask why you didn't tell him the truth. Ultimately, he decides he understands why you and the Vanguard handled his past the way you did. I don't think I would have told me either, he admits. He says he saw everything he did as Aldrin, as if he were reliving it. He looks shaken, but steadies himself and explains that he too is afraid of the man he used to be. I've asked Ikora to put me on another assignment, he states. Crow looks to you and assures you he just needs some time to think things through. He tells you to offer whatever explanation you like to the Awoken Queen, but for now, he just needs to be alone and asks that you respect his privacy. And immediately following that, we get uh, this, I believe, the second to last. The last lore entry I don't believe is unlocked yet for
I was going to say the last one we have access to right now.
Ripples. So this is in the lore book Ripples, entry 6, Isolation. Space is loneliness. Far removed from any of the system's planets, it is at once suffocatingly dark and blindingly bright, depending on which way you turn. A jump ship sits in a fixed position in the black, engines off, orientated so its underbelly faces the glare of the distant sun. There is no true cockpit inside the radiant accipiter. The ship's canopy projects an image to the pilot. No frame, no obstructions, just the infinite gulf. Crow stares up at the blackness between a cluster of stars he can't identify. He wishes he were there, where nothing is known, where everything can be new. Glint rests in his guardian's lap. He's accustomed to Crow's hands cradling him as though he were a small cat. But in this moment, Crow's head is instead in his hands, fingers tangled in his hair. Glint is silent, patient. He knows he has to be. Crow makes a small sound in the back of his throat, and the ghost stirs. When this is followed by an unsteady hitch in his breathing, Glint floats up, presses himself to Crow's chest, and begins to hum. Crow's hands close around him, clutching him against his heart. And that is how Glint knows Crow is still the same inside. Some time passes. Sulphurous plumes rise from the fissures in the Venusian soil. Crow marches across the planet's surface, his boots crushing thin sheets of calcium that skim across shallow, iridescent pools of water. His jump ship is perched atop a rise nearby, clear of the unstable field he now traverses. Crow, please, Glint pleads over his guardian's shoulder. Can you tell me why we're here? And that's the end of that card. So, poor Crow.
Dude, he's had a life. He's had a
he,
life, and now he's had to relive it. Like he's and so we do have a little bit of context of it's. I think somebody, I don't remember who said this to me, but it was like a theory. Like, what if Savathun really has been telling us the truth this whole time? Like, if like her little game is to tell us every little thing and make us question every little thing she tells us, as if like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Like,
I
and so when
mean,
she says everything, and then we come back to Crow, and it says, I relived my life as Uldren, as if seeing it through his eyes. So like,
but would he know what the complete picture is? Like,
yeah,
he
like
can
because of
say
the
he relived his life as Aldrin, but if he doesn't know what Aldrin's life
right,
was, like he doesn't have a point of reference to know if that's all of it.
he only has what to go off of what was shown to him.
Right. However, I do kind of vibe with the idea of like sometimes the most powerful thing that can be said, the most dangerous thing that can be said is not a lie, but a truth. And that also
You know,
kind of
or like you never find what's hidden in plain sight type thing, right? Like that's
mhm.
that
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 also that rolls into the Witch Queen, kind of catchphrase is the wrong word.
no, the catchphrase, the truth is a funny thing.
Well, specifically survive the truth.
Oh yeah.
So we always assumed like that it's is the truth how Savathun got the light, like what truth is she speaking about? And maybe it is literally that she hasn't had to lie, that by nature of our expectations of her we are deceiving ourselves,
And
and she
and
hasn't
that
said
and that
anything
in
to
turn
us
is feeding her worm because it feeds off deception
because it
and
feeds off
trickery.
ignorance.
Yeah. I think that's an important note to make too. And I think I keep mixing those two up. I keep thinking of her as being trickery and deception. It's ignorance
Yeah. To be fair, she's referenced as the hive god of trickery and
of
deception
trickery and deception,
multiple
right?
times in game by many characters.
But that's
It's
not
she
specifically what her
herself,
worm feeds off of.
right? It's she herself that states that the I think it's the lore card where she's disguised in the city, and a person like stumbles across her in a vulnerable moment, and
Yep.
she tells them a lie, uh, and they believe it and walk away, and like it's the ignorance of the situation that she feeds off of.
Yep.
um so to everyone in game, they think it's just trickery and lies and whatnot, but I think at least from her explanation internally it's a little more nuanced than that.
Holy shit.
So the last bit of relevant lore that I've got here, not directly relevant, but just kind of informs us a little bit as to what Crow is up to on this reassignment. It actually comes from Season of the Lost. Sparrow, the headless horsepower.
Festival of the Lost.
Festival of the Lost. You're right. Season of the Lost, Festival of the Lost. I never made that connection till now.
Yeah, it's all lost.
It's all lost. Festival of the Lost, the quote unquote like Halloween October event. But yeah, Sparrow from that, called Headless Horsepower, reads as such. Glint compiled as Crow made his way down an enormous metal corridor festooned with Keitel's banners. They were directed to a room aboard the Cabal flagship, a simple space furnished for guests. When the door closed and they were finally alone again, Glint waited expectantly for Crow's usual candor, but there was none. "So," Glint finally ventured, "how's it going?" Crow hoisted himself into a massive, cabal-sized chair and regarded Glint from the corner of his eye. "A little eye-opening, maybe even frustrating, or infuriating. It's like being in a room of Saladins." Glint hovered hesitantly in front of Crow's face. "Are you nervous about meeting Keitel? You don't need to be." "Why are you being weird?" Crow asked with a hint of annoyance. "It's just that you don't really need me here. This is a Cabal battleship. The only thing that could hurt you here is the food." Crow snorted. "It's really not so dangerous once you learn to sneak up on it." He paused to consider Glint's position. "You're right, though. Keitel won't let anything happen to me. It would be a diplomatic incident." "So I was thinking," Glint continued, "that as long as you're safe, I could take some time to do a little research for my collection of tall tales and legends." "You mean your stories about the cult of pumpkin men?" "They're called the Headless Ones," Glint chirped back, and then with increasing urgency, "there have been credible reports for centuries from all over Seoul detailing very similar phenomenon without any clear cause or link." Crow held up his hand. "The Headless Ones," he said abruptly. Glint, Glint's analysis. Glint backed away slightly and nodded. "You're not going alone, are you?" Crow asked. "No. The Guardian said they'd go with me." Crow contemplated for what felt like a very long time to both of them. When he finally spoke, his voice was small and low. "Just promise me one thing." "Anything." "When the shooting starts, remember to keep your head." Glint's groan echoed through the halls of the battleship. It was a groan of adventure. So,
Crow is
Crow's,
now the emissary to Keitel.
yeah, Crow's pun aside at the end there. Uh, what
I
we
loved it.
learned from this, a couple things. He is now,
Sparky?
yeah.
It's like it's come full circle there, right? Like
Uh-huh.
the very first entry we have about him is them naming each other, and he's like, "How about Sparky?" And that was very much that human. Glint has this very human
Like,
reaction to it. This it
uh,
just falls into the bit of leaves at the campfire, and it's very much the same. Yeah,
yeah. So, but yes, Crow is emissary to Keitel. He's kind of the liaison between the Tower and the Cabal. Uh, I find a couple things interesting about this. One of which, well, we'll do this. First of all, is the fact that there is an emissary to the Cabal now. There's a guardian emissary to the Cabal. That what started as a ceasefire is leaning more and more towards an actual alliance from what I'm seeing.
oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
and
Well, and
that
Savathun made that point pretty
Mhm.
obvious during the season. When I swear there was a scene where she's like, it's kind of like flashbacking through the seasons, and
Yep.
it shows
Yep.
Mithrax and it shows Keitel, and it's like, we used to think all Cabal were bad and all Fallen are bad and all Hive are bad. Like
Yeah. No,
in our
it's
head, we're still thinking all Hive are bad, but now here's this Hive lady who's like, hey, maybe not all Hive are bad. Maybe we are all just a pawn on this giant board of light and dark.
yeah. So it is interesting to see some of that come to light. I the other bit, which is maybe just gameplay consideration to make Festival of the Lost have a character driving it.
Oh, come on.
I
We got.
Yeah.
I was going to say we got Ava, the greatest gilf ever.
We're now going to a one host podcast for this.
God damn it! Zora is now just a spectator in this system. No, wait, but seriously, like we've never really had anyone for because like Ava's just been there for like all the
she's just the stand-in for.
She's
Hey,
like
there's
this
an event.
seasonal thing. Like, hey, here's a new thing. Come do my thing with me.
Which
and now we have more of a driving thing.
Which I really do appreciate. Like I have actually really enjoyed how Festival of the Lost has gone this year.
Sure.
As far as the content we've been given, the kind of little fun stories that have gone along with it.
I do like the haunted lost sectors. Like I miss the haunted forest because this is really so because this was the first year without the haunted forest, right? So
yes, yeah.
Part of Beyond Light being pushed back, I think, was because of that. Like they needed to still use the haunted forest for Season of the Lost, and I think I remember saying something about it last year. And then, of course, this year when it was like, hey, there's no Mercury, like there is no infinite engine, there's no infinite forest, like we can't just go explore a dark version of it.
They figured their way around that just fine for the lighthouse.
Touche. Touche. And every PvP and Gamut map. Mm-hmm. All right, you win this argument, good friend.
Simulations, quote unquote.
Simulate my foot in your ass.
But
yeah, so this like having Glint as like this like go-to person for the story of the Headless Ones, and even the Lost Sectors themselves, like I genuinely find them enjoyable. They are very engaging. They're very much like you kind of want to push yourself to get to, oh, how many can I get this time? How many can I? We did find out that there is an actual cap on them. If you summon 10, it just stops spawning. Yeah.
I noticed
you have like 45 seconds of just standing there with each other doing emotes.
It's quite fun when you get through those 10 really quick.
Yeah.
And one of the other people doesn't understand what's going on. You just see them leave.
They just leave like they think it's broken, and it's like, no, you just gotta wait, buddy. So I do wish that that it was just an infinite amount, like kind of like how that was how the forest was, right? Like that's the whole tracker on there, the deepest branch to get to, you know. So yeah, so that's I'm kind of bummed that that's a thing, but I think you can do more because when the boss spawns and they go into their immunity phase, can you infinitely farm those?
I think so. You have to have a coordinated team to do it.
Like you just have to tell each other, "Hey, don't throw the pumpkins at the boss."
Yeah, and if I recall, you specifically have to throw the pumpkins at a different enemy so that they still detonate, and it uses them, quote unquote. Otherwise, they just keep respawning at the tree, near the boss spawn. But yeah, as long as you and your team like coordinate that,
use up the bombs, but don't use them on the boss, you could farm infinitely. Interesting.
Yeah. Or it seems that way. I haven't had a team to do it, but I did have a group where we had like 5 of the headless ones spawn during a single boss immunity phase. So
absolutely.
That seems to be what was happening. But yeah,
I think the most I've seen is like 14 or 15 total. So yeah, I could easily see 5 through that boss phase.
So, but I agree with everything about Festival of the Lost. I've actually quite enjoyed this one. I like this rendition. Personally, I like this rendition more so than the Lost Forest. I think mostly just because I've seen the Lost Forest for 3 years in a row.
It's something different. It's a little bit. It's a little change of scenery.
But and the Lost Forest took forever to get through. Like I like having something that I can just go, okay, this is going to be 10 minutes. And then I get a reward, and also the rewards are very good. They're very generous.
The rewards are insanely generous. Like especially. So, do you have the full lore book?
Yes, I do now. Yeah.
Like you get a shit ton of drops now.
Mm-hmm.
Like a single chest will have like 5 weapons in it, easily.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's very very generous with its drops.
Our commentary on the gameplay aspect aside, I find it interesting that from the story perspective, and again, I know they had to they probably went, okay, we want Glint to be the main attraction. Because not only is the Guardian mute, apparently the Ghost is mute now too. But
You
we
notice that too, right? Like the whole time Glint is talking and not your ghost. I don't think
Yeah.
your ghost has any lines during the whole event.
I don't think our Ghost has said anything since Beyond Light.
I don't think he has either.
So it's apparently that's a disease that's just going around.
Once you've been res so many times, you just lose the ability to speak.
You
And
just
then after, because like Zavala's ghost never talked, Sundance never talked. Whatever
No,
Ikora's
I mean,
ghost
not that
is,
we
we've
saw.
never even seen Ikora's ghost.
Ikora, actually, there is a bit of lore where Ikora's ghost specifically does not talk to her. For
I'm telling you,
reasons.
it's a thing.
But so all that aside, I find it interesting that Crow and Glint, these two inseparable buddies that have only ever had each other, are comfortable enough with Crow being in Keitel's care that Glint can just peace out and go to other planets.
Yeah.
Like, does that mean Crow doesn't have his light when Glint gets too far away? Does that mean that I don't know. It just it feels a little weird, especially coming off of a story beat where it's like technically Glint kept Crow's past from him as well.
Yeah.
And now there's almost a little bit of like Glint doesn't think Crow trusts him anymore.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of trust lost there.
He has a there's I don't know if it's I think it's at the end of one of the alignments. You can get one of the dialogue that's between Glint and Ikora, and it's Glint essentially saying like, Ikora, what if he never talks to me again? Like what do I do? And she's essentially telling him like, you are still his family now. Like he'll come around, just give him time. But it seems to imply that their relationship right now is strained.
Yeah.
So I also
which still very much leads to that humanness of the ghosts.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Like they have emotions and thoughts and feelings just like their guardians do. And I also wonder then if maybe Crow letting Glint go on this adventure and Glint wanting to go on this adventure is also their own way of giving each other space, although it seems kind of dangerous, to be honest. Because
I mean, it's
if Crow
Keitel's
doesn't have
main
his
ship,
light,
right? Like it's
well, if Crow doesn't have his light, all it takes is one Cabal having a bad day, not even to purposefully go for him. Like, what happens if the Cabal opens the door too quick and you're on the other side and they just splatter you against the wall? Like,
that's true.
There's the potential for accidents there.
That is true.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure some of it's just gameplay consideration, but I did find it kind of interesting that they were both kind of like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. You can leave. I'm safe here."
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Which that'll actually be next week's episode is Glint's adventure. Next Monday is November 1st. Right? Am I crazy thinking that?
You may not be. Let's pull up a calendar here because I
know we're running way over our 2 hour.
just a bit, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it is the November 1st, so the day after Halloween.
Day after Halloween. So it's the Day of the Dead. We're gonna have a special. I say special podcast as if it's different than any other podcast. But we will be covering the Season of the Lost or the Festival of the Lost. See, now you got me doing it. And Glint's adventures throughout the universe to figure out the story of the Headless Ones.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. So I think we've pretty well covered the Crow in depth and every other topic under the sun.
I feel like that's the case, at least for now.
Yeah. Well, we'll find more because there's still a few more achievements that are secret in the game, which will obviously be part of the epilogue. So we probably won't see those until the last couple of weeks or days before Witch Queen. So we got some time.
We'll have some time for some more stuff to pop up.
Exactly. So is this a good spot to end it then?
I think so. I think this is a good spot to end our episode for the night.
Alrighty then. Well, you know me, I like ending with thank yous. We'll give a good thank you to Alpha and Eclipse for joining us tonight.
Of course. Although I think you should just go the extra 17 minutes to make it a 3-hour episode.
Oh, that's happening now. I can
don't do it. Don't do it.
I don't know that I can fit a 3-hour episode on Podbean without taking both of the previous ones down.
That's funny. A big thank you to Savathun for being you.
Don't take that. No.
Hey, I'm just thanking the messenger.
Go back to your subreddit.
Thank you to Glint for I guess pulled pork, now Glint, for throwing the entire Destiny universe into this chaos that has been the last year of us discovering Crow and the insanity that is Crow. I guess thank you, Mara. Maybe we'll thank Mara in secret.
Not my Mara Sov.
On hashtag not my Mara. Or hashtag Mara Rule 34.
No. I mean, sure, but not.
Sure.
Don't make that public.
But not right now. Obviously, thank you to Pro himself and Uldren for just being, for wanting to continue on. Like, for how much hell this poor guy has been put through. To keep going, to keep moving forward, to keep saying, I'm going to take the next step. I'm just going to, today sucks. I'm going to keep going. Like, I think that message, that little subliminal message there, is something that a lot of us as humans outside of the game need. Of that message of, life will kick you in the balls and it fucking blows, but there's always tomorrow, and then there's always the next day, and that's what I truly get from Crow's story, from all the way from Uldren, all the way from the beginning of all that time ago, back on the Exodus Green to now. It's always that story of I am better for my experiences in life. It's not what kills you makes you stronger. It's what you experience makes you better, I think is a much better way to put that saying. And so that's I really enjoy that line of thinking there, that when life gives you lemons, cut them in half and squirt them in the eyes of your enemy, and then give them 1,000 paper cuts and pour that lemon juice in their paper cuts and laugh in their faces.
Sounds like who is it? Cave Johnson from Portal.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's what that was from. So thank you, Portal, for that reference. Thank you, Myth, for keeping me sane and honest and wholehearted and such a good person. I absolutely adore these Mondays. These are some of my favorite times in the week comes from these little stints. So with that, Myth, you got anything?
Summed it up nicely. So say we will see everyone come Monday, and that will be covering the Festival of the Lost.